It's my first date in Texas, and the woman sitting across from me has just admitted she's already married. But it's okay, she explains, because she has her husband's permission. Actually, this whole dating separately thing, it was his idea, and he thinks it's kind of hot. So I start judging him, because I moved to Texas to settle down and get married, and the last thing that I expect is to be on a date with a married woman. I already know that we're not going on a second date because I'm running out of time. The last time that I was in a long-term relationship was over 15 years ago when I was in the Marine Corps. And no matter what branch of the military that you join, they're all going to give you the same piece of advice. Don't get married while you're in the military. And every year, thousands of us blatantly disregard that advice, including me. But it's going to be different because I'm clever. Instead of getting married, I just get engaged. And it's not to the first woman that I meet, it's literally the second. And I have no plans for what I'm going to do because my fiance goes to college 3 hours away. We see each other once or twice a month, but for 2 years, we make long distance work. So when she asks if I mind if she takes a semester abroad, I support her because I have no reason not to trust her. And while she's gone, things seem normal. We video conference on Skype, I visit with her parents, and we send care packages. But when she gets back, it's like she's a little different. She's holding something back. But I never press her on it because when I came back from boot camp, I was weird too. And if this is jet lag or culture shock, I can be patient with her. And 2 weeks later, it starts burning when I pee. I Google my symptoms, and I realize I have a urinary tract infection. I just spent the last 4 days sleeping in a field. I was running around outside doing Marine Corps stuff, and we don't take showers when we do that. I start getting proud of myself. I start thinking, man, you were so filthy out there. You picked up an infection. And it didn't even bother you. You're getting really good at this Marine Corps thing. So I schedule a doctor's appointment, but it's a week away, and I figure I can tough this out. And the night before I go see the doctor, my symptoms have progressed. I wake up every hour because it feels like I have to go to the bathroom more than I have ever had to go to the bathroom before in my life. When I go, not much comes out, but what does feels like red-hot BBs dragging a razor blade. And the next morning, when I'm finally in front of a doctor, he's asking questions that are way too personal for a urinary tract infection. Questions like, who have you been having sex with? And when I tell him just my fiance, he gets really serious. He puts both his hands on my shoulders, and he says, we're going to run some tests. And to me, that means, oh, you have a fiance. This couldn't possibly be an STD. This is something serious, something you pick up in a field. That's why we have to run these tests. And they prescribe 2 types of antibiotic, but no one ever tells me directly what it's for. So a couple days later, I want to brag to my Marine Corps buddies about the crotch rot that I picked up in the field that takes 2 antibiotics to cure. So I Google my prescription, and I find out my fiance gave me chlamydia. And she immediately stops being my fiance. I pick up my phone, and I send her a text. And it says, what else did you give me? Which isn't my best, but she never responds. I never see her again. She ghosts me. And I honestly thought it would bother me a lot more than it did, but within a year, I'm out of the Marines and in college. When you have a GI Bill, your own car, and no roommates, and that apartment doesn't smell like feet, it's a major advantage on the guys coming out of high school. And short-term dating is great. It just becomes a part of my life. And after college, my career takes me around the country. I don't have time to get married again. So I date like I'm in my 20s, well into my 30s, until I notice that 40 is a lot closer now than 30 was. And I didn't think I was going to be single for this long. My younger sister has 4 kids. The oldest is about as old as I was when I joined the Marines. I'm the last single guy in my friends group. Every time one of those guys has a kid, he disappears. If I have a kid right now, I'm going to be 60 when they're in college. And if they wait for as long as I did to have children, I'll be dead before I meet my grandchildren. And so this fuse starts burning in my brain as the panic sets in, because I know you can't just jump into being engaged. Relationships take time that I just don't have because I squandered it on hookup apps. And I decide that this is my last chance for love before I turn 40 and die alone. So I'm going to use all of the resources I have. I'm willing to move. And I start researching every city in America. And when this starts, it kind of makes sense. I've got columns on a spreadsheet like male to female ratio, cost to buy a home, population by age brackets. And 2 weeks later, I've got columns like favorite 90s band, this comedian just moved there. And it all comes down to 2 cities. Austin, Texas, and Nashville, Tennessee. Demographically, very similar, but culturally, just not so much. It turns out that Austin has something special that Nashville doesn't. Austin's significant LGBTQ population gives us one of the largest gaps between straight men and straight women in the entire country. Ironically making it one of the easiest cities in America for straight men to date. And now the day is finally here. It's my first date in Texas, and I cannot wait to meet this woman. She is beautiful. She is from Texas. She's tall and blonde and has the curly things in her hair. She goes to church, hunts and fishes. She looks just as good in a dress and heels as she does in boots and camouflage. And her dating profile says that she's family-oriented. And she just keeps talking about her husband. I learn all about how they met when they were 18 and in college, and yeah, that's relatable. And when they were looking at where they wanted to live, they chose their location based on the schools. And my spreadsheet didn't have a column for schools. And she tells me that after buying a home and settling down and going to fill it with children, they found out that they couldn't. And I had no idea what I would do if I found out I couldn't have kids. And she keeps explaining that this devastated their marriage, and that dating separately is actually just one more thing they're trying, after many years of many different things, to avoid separating. And she confesses that she was really nervous coming out tonight, because I'm the first person that she's gone out with who isn't her husband. And as she's confessing all of these events of the last 15 years of her life that led to her sitting across the table from me, I realize that I have been avoiding some very serious questions for the last 15 years. I have no idea what beliefs I would challenge, what traditions I would change if it meant holding on to someone that I love, but these 2 people had been doing that every single day. And so I stopped judging them, and a week later, we went on a second date. I don't know if you've ever gone out with someone who's married, not to you. It's awesome. Every time we go out, she is always on time, usually because she gets dropped off. No matter where we go, she's always really excited because she doesn't normally get to go on dates. And the best part of all is later on when she's all tuckered out and she starts getting cranky, her husband picks her up and takes her back home. So now when I'm dating in Austin, the first thing that I look for is whether or not they're married. Happy Valentine's Day.